Hi, everyone. Welcome to Grayscale's deeper dive into space and time. We are fortunate enough to be joined today by Nate Holliday, co-founder of Space and Time and CEO of MakeInfinite Labs. Thank you for coming on today, Nate.
Thanks for having me, Ray. Excited to speak with you today.
Likewise. So as always, the purpose of these deeper dives is to introduce investors to the protocols underlying our products. We like to explore how the protocols work and the value that's unlocked and just make it more tangible. And you get to hear from the co-founders directly. Before we do that, we're going to read some disclaimers. So bear with me for a few minutes while I go through these. This call is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be, nor should it be construed or used as investment, tax, or legal advice, an investment recommendation, an IRA provider recommendation, or an offer to sell or the solicitation of an offer to buy any digital asset or security. Clients of Grayscale may maintain positions in the digital assets discussed on this call. Any opinions expressed through this webinar are solely our own and do not necessarily express views or opinions of Grayscale or any affiliates. So with that, I think we can hand it over to Nate. Do you want to give a little bit of an introduction, talk a little bit about your own journey and what experiences you had that led to the creation of Space and Time?
Yeah, I'd love to talk about it. So I've been in the data industry for about 20 years. I started with ETL project out of Silicon Valley called Talend, and then I went and ran the global business for Teradata. And Teradata, if you know, it's a large-scale data warehouse, which runs the largest data warehouses for the largest companies in the world. And we really focused on driving value for customers, right? Ensuring that customers can use data to get value out of their business and build the largest companies in the world. And that's what we did. The largest companies in the world ran on our databases and still mostly run on our databases at Teradata. And what I came to find out over those 10 years was that, data is a company's number one asset. Right? A lot of people talk about products. Without data, you don't understand your customers and you can't build a large business and so data is always the number one topic in board meetings, and it's always the number one asset for companies that they have. And then I went and worked with Vista Equity building next generation financial service products and emerging technologies. And every time in the journey, we were always focused on customer outcomes. What businesses actually can use data to drive growth. But during that journey, over the last 20 years, the one problem that nobody solved was, how do we ensure that this data is accurate? How do we ensure that this data can't be tampered with? How do we ensure that nobody can manipulate this data? And so when I had an opportunity to build Space and Time with my co-founder Scott Dykstra, we really focused on building a next generation database, solving the database problem of how do we ensure that people can't manipulate the data, they can't tamper with the data, because it's catastrophic when it happens. And all over the world we see when data gets manipulated, when data gets hacked, when data gets tampered with, it creates a catastrophe everywhere it goes.
Okay, great. So, and since then, since those early days, you spoke to the purpose a little bit. How has the vision for Space and Time changed? What stayed the same? What's changed and evolved or surprised you perhaps?
Yeah, no, we, the vision has stayed the same, right? We always come back to the core, like with, the boom in AI is really exciting right now. But at the core, our mission is unchanged, right? Databases should have tamper-proof, verifiable data in them that can't be manipulated. And this is really important because when we ventured into the blockchain industry, right, being able to verify data on chain was really important, right? But most of the world's data lives off chain. When 99% of the world's data lives off chain and only a small fraction of it's on chain, bringing this verifiable future means that most of the work is going to be off chain. And so we've really started and continued to tackle that problem. And it's still of what we're trying to solve. I already talked about it. AI's come. Well, data isn't keeping up with AI, right? And so we're still focused on how do we scale computation in a verifiable way for the largest databases all over the world, and it's what we're going to continue to do. But yes, there's a lot of exciting, innovation that has happened since then in the world of AI. Uses a mass amount of data.
So let's zoom in a little bit. What is, in the simplest terms, what is space and time? Can you explain it to me like I'm 5?
Yeah, I'll try. Space and time is a database. And if you don't know what a database is, it's a computer that holds a lot of data. And space and time's main goal is to make sure that people aren't lying about the data. They're not lying about your data. And so we all know when we're 5 years old or first or second grade, lying is bad. And making sure that other people don't lie about you or you don't lie about yourself is a good thing, right? And so we're trying to help people not to lie or not to have other people tell lies about us.
That's a great answer. So let's talk about proof of SQL or proof of SQL. How does it work? Why is it a breakthrough?
Yeah, and I just preface it. I think it's one of the most innovative breakthroughs in data and in the database industry in 10 years or more. There was cloud computing, which was really exciting, and Microsoft and Amazon and Google were at the forefront of that. But this is the kind of the next generation of innovation, and we had a problem, right? And if you think about the crypto world is, we have multiple sources of data, and then we draw consensus on it, and then if there's any bad actors, right, we basically throw them out because the other 10 people told the truth, and the one person that lied, you can just disregard it, and you draw consensus on this data. Well, if you're trying to solve verifiable data in the real world, you can't go to a CTO of a company and say, hey, you need to run multiple database instances of the same data. It's wildly inefficient, and nobody's going to do it. And so we had to figure out a way that we could run the data once, store the data once, and mathematically prove that the data is accurate. And so we created a novel, patented, zero-knowledge proof that proves that data is correct, complete, and hasn't been tampered with, mathematically guaranteed with zero-knowledge proofs.
And so when you use that, what are the use cases that you're seeing today in DeFi, gaming, AI, enterprise systems? How is this coming to life for people?
Yeah, in DeFi, for example, we take the blockchain industry. DeFi users use space and time to build more sophisticated data-driven protocols, right? If you want to provide a loan on-chain to someone, you need to have a lot of information about that person, right? Have they taken other loans out? Did they repay those loans? Were those loans on-chain or off-chain, right? And to get a holistic view of, right, this loan that we're going to lend out, can it be trusted, and do we have confidence that they'll pay it back? With institutions, we work with some of the largest banks around the world and enterprises, and they use space and time to tokenize assets on-chain or to simply understand what's happening on-chain and off-chain, right? So a lot of the systems that are operating off-chain in a traditional database world, legacy databases, they can't connect or speak to blockchains. And so we provide this bridge that combines on and off-chain data in a verifiable way. And then in the AI world, right? So agents are using space and time for context before they transact or to provide modeling of data. And we see that business and that usage continue to grow exponentially.
And you guys have had, on the point about institutions, you've had some news recently. Tell us more about the Microsoft Fabric integration and why it's a meaningful milestone.
Yeah, so we worked with Microsoft to integrate blockchain data directly into Fabric, right? So if you're a Microsoft user and you're a Fabric customer, you can go in and you can access blockchain data from Bitcoin, from Sui, from Ethereum, and it's real time, it's free, a part of your Fabric subscription, and you can have all the information that's on-chain on those blockchains, and it can be natively integrated into any of your database systems. So we really have made it very easy to read and write data from those blockchains that I mentioned directly into Fabric for all Fabric customers. So that was a really exciting announcement. And it's live today, right? Developers can go access it. They can go run queries against it. They can go, build better on-chain insights and on-chain businesses today.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about how developers are using the interface?
Yeah, there's what's interesting is when we started in 2022, Microsoft called us and said, "Hey, let's get in the research lab and let's build cool stuff." And AI was just on the forefront of adoption and innovation. And Scott and I always thought, it was really challenging to get data insights from databases, right? You have to, in the old days, you had to go build a dashboard and you had to get specs and you had to go to the engineers and you said, "Hey, I'm trying to build this report or this dashboard. And this is what I wanted to look at." And we'd spec it all out, right? And then they'd go and they'd find out where all the tables are and they'd start to join them in unique ways. And then they'd come back to us 30 days later and say, "Hey, here's the report. Is this right?" And we'd be like, "Yeah, not really. Like, try again." And they'd go away for 30 days and come back. So what we did initially for user interfaces was we built a no-code SQL generator, right? So if I ask a question like, how many customers did I get in the last 100 days or 30 days? It's a SQL statement, right, against a database. So what we built was with Microsoft, and it's published online, is a no-code SQL generator, right? So you would type in, right, how many customers did I get in the last 30 days? It would write the SQL, syntax for you. It would go execute against the space and time database, and it would return a result of, for example, all the customers that have signed up in the last 30 days. That was really unique in 22 because now you don't need to be a SQL expert to get insights to data. Now we've taken it a step further where we've created a whole app generator, right? So if you want to create a lending protocol, you could just go to space and time and just basically type in, "Build me a lending protocol," right? My son's thinking about, he's getting to the age where money's important to him and he's thinking about a job. And I told him we have a lot of dogs in our neighborhood. I'm like, just go build a dog walking app with space and time, right? And then walk around and get all the neighbors to sign up for the dog walking app, and they can pay in, they can pay in dollars on Stripe account, they can pay USDC on a crypto account, like they can pay however they want. And that just takes literally, 5 minutes to create this very simplistic, application. And that's something that's really valuable to us. We're trying to remove the barrier of entry so anyone can participate in the world of data and AI moving forward.
That is really cool. And if he does build that app, please let me know because I'm short some walkers for my dog George. So keep me abreast. What other kinds of, what feedback are you getting from the enterprises and builders that are using space and time? What has been their experience?
Yeah, they like how fast and easy the tools are. Historically speaking, tools are too slow and they're too cumbersome, and the rate of change happens so fast in the data industry. You don't want to go to developers and say, "Hey, here's a new spec. Go get me, new insight." Prior to space and time, data was very siloed across organizations. This brings it all together. So you have one, in a sense, source of truth, although it sits across multiple different platforms. And specifically in the blockchain industry, indexing solutions, they were too slow and they weren't accurate, surprisingly, right? When we got in this space, we thought everyone had solved the indexing, indexing of blockchain issues, and come to find out they weren't solved. And so they enjoy that, the data coming from space and time is accurate and it represents actual data on the blockchain. And the ZK coprocessor is the fastest ZK coprocessor in the world, right? We can compute 10 million tables, 10 million rows in a table in basically under a second. So it's very robust, it's very enterprise ready, and it scales to run very complex queries to prove out data on chain, off chain.
So I want to zoom out now and think a little bit about the bigger picture. Let's start with, how does space and time fit into the broader Web3 and AI landscape?
Yeah, I think Web3 is fairly straightforward, right? Web3 is still constrained with lack of data innovation, right? Without space and time and without proof of SQL, ZK proofs are unusable, right? They're too slow, they're too expensive. And so we've really solved the ability to run verified data in blockchain in a large scale way. Space and time sits in the middle that delivers kind of these data solutions for both on-chain and off-chain. And it's pretty exciting as this bridge that connects two systems. The real challenge for us ahead is, AI is far outpacing the innovation in data, right? The data insights, the data, collection, the data processing is not keeping up with the rate of innovation of AI. And so that can be concerning, right, in the world of AI, because if AI continues to advance at a large scale, but data can't keep up with it and data can't be verified, then you have kind of the wild, wild west, which can get really, really ugly really fast. And so we're really focused on scale, right, that our ZK proofs can scale to the size of AI processing, so we can ensure that everyone can be safe and that we can keep up with the scale of AI as it continues to grow. So we're focused on that and really excited about that opportunity.
And what kind of opportunities does that unlock as it relates to the applications that become possible when you have smart contracts that have access to verifiable off-chain data at scale?
Yeah, I mean, when you have verifiable data off-chain at scale, like, every bank and enterprise and developers that are running AI agents can now use space and time and ensure that it's verifiable. Without space and time, to my knowledge, there is no other system that can verify data at scale, at the scale that AI is running, right? It also opens up a lot of opportunities around like the AI app generation, right? So you're generating a lot of apps, you're creating a lot of new users into the space, you're giving power to people all over the world that may or may not have bank accounts, but definitely aren't world-class developers. I mean, if you think about, the world is shifting to tokenized assets. Banks are here. We work with them every day. They're going to continue to lean in and grow, and that needs to operate at scale. It means the database has to operate and it needs to be verifiable at scale. But also what we're seeing is a tremendous amount of excitement around our app generation products, right? We just announced 124,000 new students all over the world that are committed through large universities all over the world to work with us to teach them AI, to teach them how to build applications, to teach them how to build a business, and to empower them for their future. I mean, one of my concerns is, as AI continues to outpace everything, like, what does it leave for the next generation, right? When I was in college, people said, learn to code and you'll be fine, right? That's not true anymore today, right? What I do when I go across, and speak to students all over the world, I tell them, maintain the creativity you were born with, and don't limit yourself, and you'll be successful, right? Because AI allows the creators, allows creativity to flourish in the new world. And so I think the notion of, like, go to college, do this, and you'll be fine is really not the case moving forward, right? And every person in the next generation that's born with this light of creativity has to find a way to maintain it and to nourish it so they can be successful in the world of AI. But we still have to provide them the tools to do that.
Right. And so looking ahead, and without giving me any material non-public information, what's next for space and time? Is there anything, exciting that we should have on our radar?
Yeah, we're going to continue to advance the robust performance of space and time, right? Of proof of SQL, right? So it can grow to the magnitudes of 100 million rows, billion row tables, etc., within a second, right? We're going to continue to build out our creators platform, right? So anybody in the world, whether they're in Indonesia or America, can create a business show their creativity and be successful in the world of AI. Right? And so we're continuing to work with, large partners all over the world. We're going to continue to add partners in the future. And, we think we have something unique where we can empower the next generation, and we can also support the institutions. Like, the banks aren't going away. They're leaning into this, and they're going to come, and force, and they're already here in force. So it's going to continue to grow. So we have the foundation. We just need to continue to mature the products so everyone can use them better.
And so, well, before we have some investor questions, but before that, let's do one sort of future-facing philosophical question. So, Nate, when you imagine what's possible, what are you most excited about in terms of the future and the vision for space and time and where it's headed?
If space and time achieves kind of my vision of it, right, I think every database in the world will have to run proof of SQL, the ZK coprocessor, the in-database verifiable processor. Why? Because AI needs to be verified and needs to ensure that it's not tampering with our online purchases, right? When we go buy an airplane ticket, we need to make sure that the parameters we gave it actually do, and it didn't, go outside those parameters and spend our money frivolously. I think every publicly traded company that reports earnings today runs on centralized databases, right? Yes, they have like security processes that are controlled by people. Yes, they have audits that are controlled by people. And historically, we have seen that not all people, not all audits can be trusted. But I really think that any large-scale corporation that is representing financial metrics to the public should be concerned about, is my data being used in the way that it deserves to be used for public consumption. So first of all, it's a privacy, but it's also a security protocol, proof of SQL. And so I really see a world where every large-scale corporation in the world that's running a database should be running on proof of SQL and should be consuming space and time products. And I know that that's a grand vision, but I truly believe like data security and data verifiability is critical for any business in the world. And you can basically consume it at a nominal cost, right? It's not a huge cost that you have to bear to consume proof of SQL and space and time. And then the other thing is, I think, it's said that, many millionaires will be created faster in AI than in the internet business. I'm not excited about creating a lot of millionaires, but I am excited about providing opportunity for every person in the world, no matter where they live, to compete and win in the world of AI and the AI economy. So where I'll get excited is when, a kid growing up in Kentucky loves movies and can go and deploy, a single, his own thoughts, his own creation, his own screenplays to create a movie, to launch it out in the world and have it be wildly successful, right? Like I talked about, a kid in India can go launch a finance product on chain that can rival the products that get the large backing of the large institutions and be just as successful in the world. So I'm excited about the consumption of data on verifiable scale, but I'm also excited that our products will enable people to participate in the AI economy without, the means that, we traditionally have here in the US to compete and win.
And that is tremendously exciting. Thank you. So let's take some investor questions now. The first is, for investors trying to spot opportunities, what's the simplest reason that space and time stands out?
Yeah, I think specifically in the world of startups, right, it comes down to, do you have the fundamentals, right? When we started Space and Time, I was totally focused on revenue, right? And a lot of people said, hey, don't focus on revenue, because once you put revenue out there, then people will start to do their, math and start to limit, right, your potential. But look, I'm a very simple-minded person, right? I want customers, which we have over 300 of them. I want revenue, which we have multi-million dollars of ARR revenue. And I want users, which, I just mentioned we have over 124,000 users that we just announced just this past month. But, we have hundreds of thousands of users already. And, for all intents and purposes, these numbers are going up, right? And so if we can continue, to build customers, and our customers are small and some of them are big, right? We have, large, US bank customers, right, that are national known and globally known. So as long as we continue to build customers, build great partnerships, like, we have the world's best partners. We're lucky in that way, right? We have the backing of Microsoft. We have, the partnerships and co-engineering with them. We have, we partnered with NVIDIA in 2022 to build GPU acceleration frameworks. We built, unique research and tech projects that now A16Z is building on top of our tech that our researchers have built. So I think if you take a step back and you look at, specifically the industry at large, you say, who's actually building real things? Who's actually has innovative tech and innovative patents behind it, and who's actually has revenue and customers behind it. I think, I'm simply minded, but, to me, those are the most important things that I look in when I'm building a business. And I just know that if I focus on that and we continue to build it, that the results will follow.
So why should investors, from their perspective, care about verifiable data?
I think the question is, as AI grows and as blockchain grows, you have to have verifiable data, right? And if you want to invest in these two industries, the question just becomes, if you want to invest in an industry, a data infrastructure, platform, and you want to be in the AI in the blockchain space, the question is who plays in that space and who does it well? We're the only database that scales, right, with verifiable data. And so I like our positioning in it. I like the innovation that our team has delivered. I like the moats around it with the patents around everything that we built. So I'm incredibly bullish on where we go from here. But at the end of the day, I think if you think that verifiable data is a necessity of the future of AI and blockchain, with bad actors and with the manipulation of data that you see and the hacking that happens all over the world, like, it should be a priority to you. And security and data has been a great place historically to play.
And you touched on one of the other questions that I'm seeing here, which is what makes space and time different from other projects working to connect blockchains and real world data. So maybe you can emphasize that again. But you talked about the moat you have through your patents and a couple of other reasons.
Yeah, I think all of that stuff is great, right? All the technical stuff is great, but I think what actually differentiates us is the ease of use of our tools, right? If you think about, just crypto in general or blockchain in general, there was a report, the last report said that, there's 27,000 or so developers. That number really hasn't changed in the past 3 or 4 years. So the question is, if the developers are 30,000 in blockchain industry, like, what's going to get this industry to grow and bring more talent and more users in? My belief is it's in the creator side, right? It's in allowing anyone to participate, not just the really, really smart technical developers and coders. And so, where I think we're going to really differentiate ourselves from other data providers is in the ease of use of our products and platforms. And so we're excited to lean in there as well.
And so for investors, one of these questions asks, what signals should they look or should they watch to know that Space and Time is getting traction?
Yeah, I mean, the Space and Time Foundation, they publish, dashboards online, right? And if you go out, you can find it online through X and other platforms. But we publish real users. We publish revenue on chain daily. We continue to announce customers. We continue to announce user counts. And so I think just we're incredibly transparent as a network. And so I just think just follow us online, and we'll continue to be transparent in everything that we do, and how the network is growing over time, and participation in the network continues to grow.
How does feedback, when you work with these enterprise partners, how does that feedback inform your go-to-market strategy?
Yeah, a lot of the feedback right now is, look, Space and Time's cheaper, it's faster, it's the only verifiable platform on the market, and so that separates itself from Web2 alternatives. Um, like I said, Microsoft's been an incredible partner for us. Introductions into the largest enterprises in the world, and working with, we have a use case with Microsoft online. You can go read it. It's with FTI Consulting, U.S. Bank, UBS, others. So we continue to work with great partners that are at the forefront of innovation, and we're a good partner, right? We want to partner with the best. We want to work with the best, and so we're always open to feedback with our customers. And two things that we hear is, make your tools easier to use, and make your verifiable database faster, right? So you can verify bigger tables, more rows.
So I think we have one more. Going back to the long-term vision, if Space and Time succeeds, what could that look like in 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, I think every bank, every enterprise, would be running a verifiable database, right? And that database should be Space and Time. Uh, I see that future as inevitable. The question is who's going to be sitting at the table? And I think we have a really unique position in the market to sit at that table, especially because, again, it doesn't cost any more, and it provides added security. So really, it's just getting the organizations, energy behind it to implement it and install it. And then, I think we'll see, millions of apps being built on Space and Time to power the next generation of AI creators, allowing anybody to participate in the network. And it's something that I'm very passionate about, right? Like, I look, I don't come from much, right? I came from a cow town, right? Like, I didn't go to the Ivy League schools, right? So it's a passion project for me, but I truly believe it, right? Creativity, I guess, can be taught, but I think every person that comes in the world has it, and it should be fostered, and everyone should be given the same opportunities, to compete and win in the new AI economy. So I'm really excited about this opportunity that we're providing everyone in the world, and we're going to continue to lean in.
Well, thank you, Nate. And that is a great sort of inspirational note for us to end on. Thank you so much, Nate, for joining me today, and for talking everyone through this. This is really exciting. And thanks, everyone, for dialing in. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for having me, Ray.